Welcome to the Joypunk Podcast. I am your host, Jenelle Etzel. For 20 years, I have made a living out of my fascination and desire to explore how people make room to live and helping them find the physical spaces that will best help them flourish and express themselves in how they live. I've worked as a real estate broker, consultant, developer, remodeler, and investor. Currently, I am the CEO of Living Room Realty, a company I founded in 2008, which has since become Portland's #1 real estate office in the city of Portland. We are home to over 120 of the top producing brokers in our area, serving home buyers and sellers. We also have a property management company where we serve tenants and landlords, and we have a full-service maintenance team, the Fixers, who maintain and repair homes in the greater Portland area. We are honored to be invited into thousands of homes and hear the unique stories of our clients. Before my real estate career, I took what looked like a major detour after college, but it was really just the beginning. After graduating, I started a punk band named Spread Eagle with 3 girlfriends. I was the lead singer and played guitar. It's not that I loved or even liked punk rock, it's just all that we could play. Most of us had never played our instruments before we started the band. You see, the beauty of punk rock is that you don't need much skill. You just have to have something to say and the courage to get up in front of an audience and say, or in some cases, scream it loudly. For the next 2 years, I screamed, yelled, and sang about what mattered in our lives in clubs and dive bars from Seattle to Los Angeles, Austin to Chicago, and everywhere in between. Being in the band gave me experience negotiating contracts, marketing our band, creating and selling merchandise, putting together press kits, and managing a tight budget on tour. And like in business, I got comfortable navigating sexism. Dudes in bands always pushed us to support their bill, not headline it, and they doubted our abilities. As the band leader, it taught me to be comfortable being in front of an audience and leading a crowd. In those 2 years, it became crystal clear that I had earned a punk rock MBA on the road with all the grit and skills necessary to build and run a business. I also learned that I could rock anything in heels, anything. I eventually talked my bandmates into parking the van for a while and moving back to my hometown of Portland, Oregon, into a 2-bedroom house off Mississippi Avenue. As luck would have it, our neighbors were members of another local band, Jackie O Motherfucker, so the sounds of our crunchy guitars and drums were mostly tolerated. During the day, I was volunteering with a startup nonprofit called Rock and Roll Camp for Girls, working at a jewelry store, and as a tile installer. Then in the evening, I was making art and playing shows where I got to meet some amazing people. One of the people that made a lasting impact on my life was fellow musician Jen Augusta. Over beers while working on a kitchen tile project together, Jen shared with me that she'd bought the house she was living in while renting out the remaining rooms to pay the mortgage. It gave her the ability to essentially live for free. She had created financial stability for herself as an artist and the freedom to be able to tour and come home to a stable residence, something I had only ever dreamed of. I was raised by a single mother who didn't own her home. Her parents were solidly middle class, but mom struggled with mental illness, which meant holding a job was difficult, and we slipped in and out of poverty while dealing with housing scarcity and instability. We moved a lot, and I was forced to constantly switch schools. Growing up this way has made me adaptable and creative. It has also given me an appreciation for the privilege of having stability and continuity in one's community, schools, and neighborhoods that homeownership provides. Owning a home was something I knew other people did, people that had more security than I did. It was something I dreamt of from an early age. Yet before meeting Jen, I couldn't really connect how it would be possible for me. Because, unbeknownst to me, I was unknowingly carrying around the obstructed worldview created by the dominant cultural paradigm that says homeownership is on some sort of checklist. I think you find it between having a baby, marriage, a corporate job, and maybe you're lucky and have a rich aunt who names you in their will. None of which I had or was looking for. I didn't question my belief system, because the blind spot was invisible until I saw a fellow young musician, just like me, buy a home. That's when the light bulb went off. If she can do it, so can I. My bedroom growing up had a poster on the wall with a ballerina that said, "If you can dream it, you can be it." It should have said, "If you can see it, you can be it." I also think it would have been cool if she'd been leaping over an electric amp with a tool belt on, but I digress. So I figured it out. I saved $7,000. I got a state bond loan that helped me build my credit from utility bills because to that point, I'd never had a credit card, a school loan, or a car payment. The only thing on my credit report was a fine from an overdue library book. A trip to pay that off, some work to establish my credit, and a whole lot of determination. And a year later, I finally bought my first house for $140,000. I felt so empowered about reaching this goal that I decided to get my real estate license and help as many people as I could. People who, like me, thought homeownership was out of reach. And my band would finish playing a show and I would jump off the stage and excitedly share with folks at the bar how to make it happen for themselves and how they could never be evicted for playing drums too loud again. Fast forward 5 years, and I had the idea to start my own real estate company. I had become a top broker in my city, serving the people I knew from my life as an artist and a musician. What real estate in Portland looked like for me, I didn't see reflected in the larger industry. I definitely did not look like your made-for-TV realtor, and my clients certainly didn't resemble the good-looking, straight white couple with a picket fence on the glossy real estate brochures of my competitors. I actually don't know anyone who fits this description, but our industry keeps marketing to them anyway. Because I was punk, I fully embraced that I was an individual and I could express that any way I liked. And with the eye of an artist and as a musician, I kept thinking, wow, this is so cool that no one in the real estate industry is getting it, because I had just found my stage and my opportunity to turn this job that I love into an enormous art project with the courageous mission to express myself however I wanted, allow my clients to do the same, and tell the story of how people really live. This idea became the vision to start Living Room Realty. But it was 2009. The housing market had collapsed and things were different for me. I could no longer live in a van with a few girlfriends. I had a mortgage, I supported my family, and I had 2 children in diapers. I was having a hard time finding money or support for my idea, and most people told me I was crazy. Even the radio was against me, telling stories about it being the end of the housing and the real estate industry.
Soaring gas prices, falling home prices, and rising unemployment.
The housing market collapse created one financial crisis after another.
Yes. Let's talk about the speed with which we are watching this market deteriorate.
This market is as volatile as you'll ever see.
Traders say this is the craziest day they have ever seen in these markets.
This could be the most serious recession in decades.
So I'd have to turn NPR off and turn Joan Jett up. You see, punks don't need permission. They don't care about standards, the rules, and they aren't waiting to be invited to the table. You don't want to give me any money? You don't want to take me seriously? Fine, I'll show you. F off. I'm going to rock it. If you're afraid, or you don't like the idea of failing, or you believe you have to be perfect, you are stopping yourself before you even try. These 3 intertwined punk concepts all point to the games you play in your own head before you attempt something new or different. So get clear on your own baggage and don't blame the world or the economy or your mother. If you've ever been in a band, you know one of the most frustrating and fun parts is choosing a band name. The name Living Room came to me after helping 2 of my favorite clients, a doctor and her husband, who is a touring musician, find their home. We would pull up to the house and they would beeline for the basement and the garage, looking for space to load in gear, enough room for recording or for brewing beer. The last room they would look at would be the living room. Now, this was true of most of my clients. When we toured the home, we went in the opposite direction as most other agents and their clients. Because for my clients, living room is a space for the life they actively create. where they are most alive, where they flourish, not where you put the sofa. This tapped into what I loved most about being a realtor, exploring the answer to the question, where's your living room? The mission then and today of Living Rooms Movement is helping those in our community find and create room to live. I think it's important to understand that not everyone is going to catch on to what you're all about. When you look and act differently, or you stand out in a crowd, not everyone is going to applaud. Just one example of this came 2 years into Living Room's existence. Here I was, the only female founder I knew in the real estate market. I hadn't thought a thing about it when I started out, and yet people were still asking me, now Living Room Realty, that's just for women, right? And I'm thinking, well, we've got male agents on the roster. Why the hell do people keep asking me that? One of the top agents in the city, who happened to be a man, announced that he was coming to Living Room Realty. He then received a text saying, Living Room Realty, huh? I didn't know you had a vagina. What the fuck? These comments are offensive and sexist at best. And when they come from other women, they were painful. But I leaned back into my punk rock experience knowing that people yell at you. They throw things at your head. And you just take your high heel boot and kick the haters off stage. You just keep going, you know? Because if the haters aren't on stage and never have been, you don't have to listen to their songs. I had a name. I had the idea. Next step was to put the band together. Luckily, punk rock taught me that technical proficiency is overrated. In 2009, I didn't know how to run a brokerage, and I couldn't recruit agents based on their current production numbers as any indication of their future success. So in the early days, just like today, I was looking for agents who might be interested in telling this story, participating in my art project, and who could help bring it alive because they had something to say and were willing to take a chance. Agents who gave back to their community, and most of all, people who had smiles on their faces. Because this was 2009, and not unlike today in 2023, it was a tough time in our industry. And if they couldn't find the joy in it, they wouldn't survive, and I couldn't afford financially or spiritually to be around them. I'm sure many of you listening are creative types that are moonlighting as some kind of small business owner and entrepreneur. So as you know, musicians and artists are perfectly suited for entrepreneurism. We sell ourselves every day. We constantly face rejection of the most vulnerable variety, and we usually aren't afraid of a cold call or of the rejection. We know how to read an audience, and we are no stranger to the hustle to survive. And we are used to working long and odd hours with crazy people. Musicians and artists also know how to write short and impactful copy that resonates with your emotions. Next time you have marketing to write, think like a songwriter. Ask yourself, what's the hook? A hook, for those of you who don't know, it's often a short riff, passage, or phrase that catches the ear of the listener. The Human League's "Don't you want me, baby? Don't you want me, oh." That's the hook. I've had my agents who joined me early on come to me and say, how did you know I was going to be successful? Why did you take the chance on me? For me, that chance just seemed like a sure bet. And how many fully tattooed agents were there at that time in Portland? Or how many agents had a skate ramp in their backyard? How many agents were bartending lesbian arm wrestling nights? It's true. We had a captive audience and authenticity and trust of a community that no one in our industry was talking to before we came along. And as a punk who is looking to create a movement that will spread far beyond my own reach, I also knew it had to be something others would believe in, protect, and grow. To get the buy-in from my organization and to include them in the vision, we came up with Living Room's core principles together. It's a set of rules to live by and to fight for, because I will be painfully honest with you, being and staying punk is extremely difficult and scary, especially as you grow and the stakes raise. One of the most beautiful things I have learned about leadership is that great leaders often follow their people. They listen to the hearts and minds of those around them and find direction and courage there. I call myself and my people Joypunks because I have had to fight the hardest for joy, and my people have fought that fight for me when I have forgotten who I am. I named this podcast the Joypunk Podcast as a means to reconnect with who I am at my best for myself and for those around me. Initially, when my company was determining our core principles together, the word joy came up again and again, and I would try to avoid and deflect it. It made me feel exposed. It felt weak. It didn't seem serious enough to be a core value for a real estate business. I argued against it, and I tried pushing it out of the conversation. It wasn't until my colleague Kari, frustrated and passionate, stood up and looked me in the eye and told me to stop fucking squashing joy. That's who you are. That's who you as a leader represent to so many of us and why we are here. By squashing joy, I was expressing the small voice inside my head that I wasn't enough. Because the reason it made me so uncomfortable, the reason I see now I was pushing it away, is that it made me feel vulnerable and exposed. Because joy is at the core of my being, and it's the most precious part of who I am. And I am scared, like most of us, to have the curtain pulled back and allow my most inner core to be exposed. I've had to understand that I am, and we are all worthy of bringing our whole selves to what we do. I have had to fight against society's portrayal of who a successful business person is. I did not have business role models I saw myself in or wanted to be. I saw myself as standing outside the world of business, of success, and money. The idea that I belong inside that world remains a challenge I must fight for every day. Knowing the permission I give myself to bring my whole self to my business and industry gives others the courage to do the same. And some of my biggest tests in business have been defending my joy and that of those around me. As a Joypunk, I have to be willing to say, I won't tolerate this for me or my people, no matter the cost. Because until you are willing to make your values a fireable offense, they are really just beautiful words on the wall. Over the years, I've had to fire valuable customers and put my money where my mouth is, walking away from business and people that did not bring joy. The fear I have about risking my business and the financial stability of what I have built is not as important to me as my soul or the promise that I've made to my people that as a leader, I will defend the values of who we are as an organization. While not a known punk, author W. Edwards Deming insisted that passion in work means that a willingness to endure pain must be accompanied by the pursuit of joy. People are entitled to joy in work. More than that, he said, that innovation comes from people who take joy in their work. If you think back to your own experience of when you have felt the most innovative, chances are you felt joy before and during innovation. If organizations value effective work, then joy must not only be at the core, but designed into work. So it turns out, not only is joy authentic to who I am, it also drives results. Trust in your heart. You will hear from my guests and other Joypunks on this podcast that their success is a direct correlation of bringing their whole selves, their passion, and their joys to their business. How radical this is, and the success and following it attracts. In my own company, allowing our agents to be themselves has been, and continues to be, the key to living room success. This is an important element in building a great brand, having something to say and saying it in your own voice. When we have a blog title that shows up on our website reading, "It's a gay, gay world," or "Best Little Whorehouse in Portland," or a recent favorite of mine, "No Market for Old Men," I know these are going to be the equivalent of our hit songs. Why? Because these are the posts that grab people's attention. They make their way around the internet and get shared hundreds of times on social media. No censorship or Photoshop airbrushing, no matter how funky or unphotogenic our clients are. We headline each of them on our front page. Without advertising dollars or the marketing budgets of our competitors, we have managed to amass more Facebook likes than any other local brokerage and grow in 5 years from $35 million to $350 million in sales. And in the next 5 years, from $350 million in sales to $1.3 billion in sales. You may be thinking, what many people do when I share that we are going to let anyone say anything they want on our website, and that is, what about the high-end market? This is what my competitors warned agents about when they came to Living Room, that showing real people in real houses would somehow alienate the higher-end market. But in fact, it did just the opposite. Our web leads had, on average, a 25% higher sales price than the average market price. You see, when a buyer comes to our website and sees themselves in a story of two women who wanted to find a house with a garage to convert to a spa-rage, you're not thinking about the price point. You just got connected in a way where your needs felt seen and understood. And there is humanity and humor in that. There is a level of connection and trust that you don't get from looking at our competitors or Zillow. This is truly a grassroots DIY approach to business. The punk scene is famous for its DIY ethos. There isn't a lot of money and support for bands when they first start, so everyone has to work with whatever they have, which is where a lot of the fashion we all know comes from, the safety pin earrings, the Elmer glue mohawks, and ripped fishnets. But there are reasons for business to harness the power of DIY too. It accomplishes two things. 1, DIY supports innovation, and 2, DIY demands we get involved in the design of our own work because we understand it better than anyone else. The stories we tell demonstrate how we know the people of the city better than anyone, how they want to live, their dreams, and their goals. For us, believing in our values and mission has been the reason we've attracted the agents we have. It also means the business can run without me because the business knows who it is and anyone can be a leader in our organization. The idea of everyone holding the values and that anyone can be a leader is a type of anarchy. And as a punk, the freedom of anarchy appeals to me. I got in this business for the autonomy in the first place. And I'm also a punk mom. So the vision of how I could grow this business up to independence has been just as important to me as giving it life. We do this with a broker advisory board of 8 agents who each take on representing one of our core values, and they decide on everything from how we raise brokerage fees to what software and tools we implement. We also practice an open book management style with transparent company financials. Empowering others in the organization to have access to information and power to make decisions and lead gives me freedom and support to let go of the day-to-day concerns and think bigger as the leader for our company. I also think that a big part of being a Joypunk is putting community before competition and being willing to help your competitors. And as you will hear on this podcast, Joypunks lift each other up. They recognize the hard work and chops of their competitors and community, and they celebrate them. We go out of our way to connect with one another and promote each other. This is so common in the punk scene. When Spread Eagle was touring, we had fans create and gift us gorgeous handmade silkscreen posters for our shows. And other artists came out to support us. They let us sleep at their houses. They fed us. They fixed our gear. They fixed our van. And they played us on their radio shows and hyped us coming to town at their own shows. One of my favorite memories of this was from a show we did in Little Rock, Arkansas. An excited fan who played in a local band there told me he'd been working to spread the word about our show and was hoping that we would have a good turnout. When I asked him what he had done, he said, "I'd see it when I went to the bathroom." Somehow, he had managed to graffiti inside the toilet bowls our band name and the show date. To this day, I have no idea how he managed to do it with water in the bowls. This was pre-Twitter, so I suppose you just had to be more creative. Recognizing and promoting the great work of others, whether they are in our organization or outside, is core to my Joypunk beliefs. It's fun to play and compete in an industry with other great players. It makes us better and lifts the value of our profession. Some of you listening from outside our city and our market may be thinking, okay, well, you live in Portland. Yeah, you can get away with tattoos and punk rock. I've seen Portlandia. How does this scale? How does this relate to me, where I live? But I'm afraid you'd be missing the point to ask those questions, because the reason our brand looks like it does is because we simply hold up a mirror to our community and our clients, and we let them shine. So living room looks like a lot of things, depending on where and how you live. Every community has a story to tell. My vision is to see this way of marketing and storytelling, this Joypunk movement in every city in America, because everyone has a story and a desire to be seen, feel connected, and to belong, and the right to love where they live. We've done this by asking, where is your living room? And celebrating the answer no matter what it looks like. The city has responded to our tenacity, our choice to stick to our principles, be ourselves, celebrating the lives of our clients as they pursue room to live. We've been awarded with the Best of Portland, the Oregon Ethics and Business Awards, the 100 Best Places to Work, Oregon Top Workplaces, 100 Best Green Workplaces, B Corp's Best in the World for Community. I could go on and on. But I want to ask you, what is it that you're dreaming of? What do you want to scream about in front of an audience? On this show, my guests and I want to challenge and encourage each of you to be a little more authentic, raw, fearless, a little more punk rock in your own lives and organizations, and to think of how you can encourage your families, your clients, and those around you as well to do the same. Because we are living in a more complex world than the one we were born into. The progress and emerging of new technologies daily means that we need to be open to a lot of new ideas. Old ways of thinking and conforming aren't going to help us keep up any longer. Raising our hand and waiting to be called on doesn't teach us to lead. And we desperately need new leaders who aren't afraid to give some of the problems we face a try. I think this is even more critical for women and people of color whose voices are underrepresented in business, positions of power, and leadership. Oftentimes we think there isn't room in the marketplace for us and our ideas because we don't see anyone else that looks like us doing it. We don't see anyone with a product or idea that solves our own unique challenges. So being willing to be a little more punk rock, to raise our voice to do something outside the mainstream, takes tremendous courage. It also means a willingness to take the chance we will fail. The punk stage was the very first place, as a woman, I was allowed and encouraged to fail. And not only was failure allowed, the hotter and larger the mess I was on stage, the louder the audience cheered. Can you imagine facing a crowd full of strangers and running full speed at them, trusting they will catch you, stage diving, crowd surfing? This went directly against my experience up to that point. To talk when called upon, rewarded for quietly doing my own work, following directions, and playing by the rules. If you ask any entrepreneur what the most important thing in scaling and running a business is, you will most likely get the response of being willing to fail, or fail fast, or try something everyone told you was destined to fail. So stay tuned to hear about the failures, the tears, the sweat, and the sweet joys of my guests as they share their stories of success, along with the work and risks they took to realize their own dreams. I used to end every show we did with my punk band by saying to the audience, I want to thank you all for participating in my rock and roll fantasy. And you know what? I still feel the same way. When I go to work and know that we have sold over $1 billion worth of real estate by telling thousands of unique stories of people in our community who are making room to live, I'm certain punk rock fantasies do come true. Welcome, fellow Joypunks. Let's get started.
You wanna